time to find me some country roads and see if, in fact, they will take me home. This is Lone Wolf Domesticated Biker. As highways turn to 2 lanes, and 2 lanes turn to back roads, I find myself heading west on Route 50, otherwise known as the George Washington Highway. After riding straight down from Connecticut, this also happens to be my first night's stay in the mountaineering state. The Cheat River is a tributary of the Monongahela River, with a length of over 78 miles long. It runs down from southwestern Pennsylvania to eastern West Virginia. There are many theories as to how it's got its name. Some think it was named for the cheatgrass that was growing up alongside the clearings on the banks. Many early settlers named it the Cheat River as they thought that it had cheated men from their lives due to its turbulent and swirling current. As for me, I'm calling it home for the night. That constant cleansing is the reason why I try to camp next to flowing water as often as the chance arises. Equally peaceful night. Waking to a misty morning, which afforded me the time to explore along the river's edges. Asked my camping host if they could recommend any breakfast spots, or at least where I could find some coffee. They recommended I continue a few miles west to the filling station, and I must have made a face because he assured me that it's some of the best breakfast in these parts, and that I just had to trust them. Turns out, Cold Springs Park has been here since 1929. It's here that you can get anywhere from gas, to burgers, to ice cream cones, to feed for your livestock. On the property, you're free to roam in a boneyard of sorts of old industrial and farming equipment. And since it was an early weekday morning, I pretty much had the place to myself. Or so I thought. So after walking off my breakfast, I said goodbye to some riders I met from Tennessee.
Hey guys, keep safe.
I love the camaraderie amongst bikers. You talk about roads you've been on, roads you're about to see, and they also let me know that I was in for some great riding. lot of fun practicing my counterbalancing, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed by the lean angle of this heritage. Usually when I travel, I try not to have a plan or itinerary in any way. I might have general direction or a loop of a state or border to border, but for the most part, I like to just spontaneously go where I feel. It's there where you find all the coolest stuff. Old towns that make you wonder what they were like back when they were new and bustling. It was around this bend that one of my top 10 all-time coolest motorcycle experiences occurred. The coal train ride-along. This was my very own David Mann moment. When I pulled off the road to stretch my legs, I was immediately thrust back to my childhood, where a young Jeffrey would spend hours working on his model railroad, laying track and trying to sculpt little bushes and trees in an effort to replicate a scene similar to the one before me. But this was real, genuine West Virginia. Seeing the coal work its way through all the arteries in the mountains, it really gives you a sense that this is one of the heartbeats of the state. I find myself somewhat intrigued by West Virginia's coal heritage, and I promise myself I'm going to have to dig a little deeper into this. A nice afternoon ride to the Beckley Exhibition Coal Mine will give me more information that I'm looking for. Here on display is the history of West Virginia's mining, with equipment and a tour of a mine that was actually a working mine years ago. After the tour, you're free to roam the property where they have a replica mining town with many of the buildings and businesses that would have been found in an actual mining town. There's a post office, a doctor's office. There's even a barber shop, which in those days performed many procedures besides haircuts and shaves, like bloodletting and tooth extraction. In fact, the colors on a barber pole are representative of that. The red being that of blood, the white of bandages, and the blue for veins. And when you're through getting your tooth pulled, you can get your shoes shined as well. There's even an old schoolhouse filled with antiques and things for learning. And I hate to admit, some actually looked familiar to me. But I was still left with so many questions. Like, who in their right mind would leave Jeff all alone to play in an empty church? Other structures include some of the residences that would have been found in an actual mining town. And it really gives you an idea of the stark contrast between lifestyles of the superintendent company man and that of the miner. The boss man's place? the miner's place. The boss man's dining room, the miner family's kitchen, the parlor, the den, the superintendent's bedroom, the miner's bedroom. There were many luxuries for that time, all of which would be considered vintage and antique right now. Many luxuries had practical purposes, whether it's keeping in touch with the outside world, refrigeration so you didn't have to haul blocks of ice. For the married guy, the washing machine kept his wife from having bigger biceps than him. But if you could afford it and you really wanted to keep the wife happy, you had better have indoor plumbing. Oh man. Like I said, when I travel, I like to be spontaneous and kind of wing it. I'll usually plan my first night's stay, but after that, I try to fly by the seat of my pants. So when the sun gets to that certain point in the sky, that's when I'll start searching for the nearest camp spots. And after 3 attempts, I finally got in touch with the nicest lady, and she said, "You're fine, come on down the mountain." Of course, as the mountain was climbing up, it was right around here that I seriously started questioning my GPS. As it turns out, this is the Hatfield-McCoy area, the location of one of the most infamous family feuds in American history. Twin Hollow is a campground that hosts many off-road enthusiasts, which would explain some of the looks I got for driving a Harley-Davidson Heritage halfway up the side of a mountain, pulling a trailer. If you want to hit the trails, you could even rent a four-wheeler right here at the campground. One of the trailheads starts right here. In the lodge, there's a smokehouse where I'm told you can get some really good barbecue. But tonight, I think I'm just going to relax and have a nice, quiet campfire dinner. So, decided to settle down for the night. I'm pretty beat. It was some epic riding today. Probably some of the more technical roads I've been on in a while. And you really got to keep your wits about you on these twisties and turnies, which makes that constant focus just makes you mentally exhausted even sooner. But I am so happy for this pillow. But anyway, I had a nice dinner. Now I'm going to take a nice little sleeper. And I know what you're saying, kids. Mom said don't ever eat and go to bed, because you'll have nightmares. But when you're sleeping in the mountains this high, the temperature dips down so drastically that to have something in your belly and get that metabolism going, that digestive fire can keep your core temperature at least a few degrees warmer. At least that's my excuse for eating late. In any case, tomorrow is gonna, if it's anything like the past couple of days, is just gonna be amazing. I can't wait. Yeah, so good night. I'll catch back up with you in the morning.
You will give us a 12-hour shift. And in that 12 hours, you will produce us 10 of these 1-ton cars of coal. For each 1-ton cars, I will give you 20 cents.
In the morning, I broke down the site while I waited for the fog to lift, and once it did, I headed back down the mountain. There's some really neat roadside attractions for some photo ops. New River Gorge National Park. Lots of covered bridges. There's picturesque Germany Valley, named for the many German families who first settled this 10-mile stretch of the Allegheny Mountains. Pinnacle Rock was formed by erosion and climbs 2,700 feet above sea level. Turns out West Virginia is not all mountains. There's some fields, rolling hills, and farmland. dropped my kickstand in hopes to find another place to set up camp for the night. Kenneth from the Genny Nook answered the phone and said, "Come on down." He asked whereabouts I was at. I told him I was next to a field, staring at what appeared to be tiny little horses. He knew exactly where I was and had a place in mind to put me that was going to keep me warm and dry. Kenneth even brought me firewood. My gracious host offered to have me stay one more night, as he was forecasting bad weather. But since today's laundry day, looks like I was going to get wet anyway. Right on cue, here came the rain. And then a surprise visit from the sun, and I no longer felt like I needed a parachute. I'm here at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, home of the Civil War battle and the famous raid of John Brown. I'll tell you what, if you want to dig any deeper into that history, there's a lot of stuff to capture here. And I'll tell you what, it's beautiful. I'll never forget this place. First settled in 1733, Harper's Ferry lies on the junction of the Shenandoah and Potomac rivers. The name of the town comes from a river ferry owner, Robert Harper. This location made it an industrial and manufacturing center as well as a transportation hub. Early settlers recognized the power of the rivers and built many structures close to the water. Tunnel-like aqueducts diverted the water, harnessing the river's flow, driving the water power industry. On November 5, 1870, high floodwaters swept away industrial buildings and homes and claimed 42 lives. Through floods, civil war, rebuilding, and the infamous attempted raid of the armory by abolitionist John Brown, this place has seen its share of history. If you want history, this is the place to go. I mean, it's just concentrated history. And there's no better way to experience the past than to walk in the paths of those who did in the past. So I'm glad I came here today. It wouldn't have been a trip to West Virginia, certainly without Harper's Ferry. So I'm so glad I came. I so recommend it. Amazing motorcycle riding. And when you get here, there's coffee, adult beverages, plenty of food, old-time candy, which is cool, and just old-timey stores reminiscent of when they were actually in service back in the booming days. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty cool to see how things have changed in a little bit of time.